Welcome back, deep divers. You guys sent in some pretty interesting material this time around. It seems like you're really curious about this Conversations with God book.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one for sure.
But, you don't just want the typical breakdown, do you?
No, not this time.
I get it. We're going for something a little different with this deep dive.
A little more unconventional.
Exactly. So, think of this as a deep dive into the deep dive, okay?
Yeah, perfect for anyone out there who, likes to question everything.
Especially the things that claim to have all the answers.
Right.
So, for anyone who maybe hasn't had the chance to check this series out, let's give them a quick rundown.
Okay, so Conversations with God is a series of books written by Neil Donald Walsh. And basically, he claims that he had conversations with God, like actually transcribed conversations.
And he did this through automatic writing.
Yeah, automatic writing.
It sounds kind of simple, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. Like God was just dictating a grocery list or something.
But anyone who's ever tried to write, anything knows that it's not exactly automatic.
Definitely not. And it's actually pretty interesting because Walsh started getting these divine downloads, as he calls them, at a pretty, well, convenient time.
Oh, how so?
Well, his life was kind of falling apart. He was dealing with homelessness, all sorts of struggles. But then just as things started looking up for him, like he got a job and a place to live, all of a sudden, boom, the voice of God pops into his ear.
Wow. Talk about good timing, right?
Right. It makes you wonder about, the whole divine intervention thing. Is it really there to help us through the tough times, or does it just show up once we've figured things out on our own?
Like, hey, I see you're finally doing all right. Just wanted to add my 2 cents. But wait, it gets even stranger.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. The book claims that God isn't this, distant bearded figure in the clouds. It claims that God is actually, get this, the universe itself.
The universe.
The universe.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that's a pretty convenient way to explain, all the inconsistencies and contradictions in the world, wouldn't you say?
Totally. It's like the ultimate get out of jail free card. Can't explain suffering. Well, God is the universe, and the universe contains suffering. Problem solved.
Yeah. And it gets even more complex because this all-encompassing God apparently fragmented itself into countless souls so it could experience and understand itself.
So we're all just little pieces of God.
Yeah, basically, running around trying to figure out what it means to be human, and in the process, helping God figure itself out too.
It's like the universe is playing hide and seek with itself, and we're the ones who are it. But here's the kicker. This God, who's also the universe, is always trying to communicate with us. But apparently, we're just too clueless to realize it.
So this all-powerful, all-knowing God is struggling to get its message across.
Yeah, basically, it's like God is playing a giant game of charades, and we're all terrible guessers. But don't worry, the book lays out the 4 ways God supposedly communicates.
Okay, I'm listening.
Emotions, thoughts, experiences, and lastly, language. But surprise, surprise, it's emotions that are the most important.
Emotions.
Right.
The universal language that nobody truly understands.
Yeah. Can't argue with feelings, right? But if emotions are supposedly the highest form of communication, why are they so confusing? Shouldn't a message from God be a little clearer than, a mix of anxiety, excitement, and whatever that weird feeling is when you eat too much cheese?
That's a good point. It's almost like this God is more interested in keeping us guessing than actually communicating clearly. But, there is something interesting about the idea of paying closer attention to our emotions.
Okay, I'll bite. What if we blamed all our bad decisions on misinterpreting our emotions as messages from God?
Now, that's an interesting thought.
Talk about a cosmic cop-out.
It would certainly make for some unique legal defenses.
Oh, absolutely. The possibilities are endless. But we've only just scratched the surface of this Conversations with God thing.
Yeah, we've got a lot more ground to cover.
So stick around, folks, because we're going to keep diving deeper into this unconventional spiritual phenomenon.
And we're not afraid to get a little satirical along the way.
You got that right.
All right, so let's pick up where we left off, shall we? We were talking about this interesting communication style of this supposed God.
Oh, yeah, the God who speaks through emotions, which, as we all know, can be super clear and straightforward.
Right. Always easy to interpret.
But you know what really gets me?
What's that?
Is what the book says about advanced civilizations.
Oh, yeah. What does it say?
Well, according to Conversations with God, real progress, like true advancement, isn't about, technology or anything like
Yeah,
that.
it's not.
No, it's about being in harmony with nature
Yeah.
and like getting rid of this whole concept of ownership,
Ownership. So what, are we all supposed to just go live in the woods and forage for berries?
basically. It's like ditch the smartphones, embrace the hunter-gatherer lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'm sure the internet providers would love that.
Yeah. Can you imagine? It'd be chaos.
Total chaos. But here's the best part.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. The book actually says that animals are more advanced than humans in this sense.
Because squirrels are out there filing their taxes and pigeons are wearing tiny suits to their office jobs.
Well, exactly. It's a good thing animals can't write book reviews. Can you imagine?
That would be hilarious. Like, 2 paws down for Conversations with God. Author clearly never met a cat.
Okay, but let's move on to something a little less hairy. What about death and the afterlife?
Mm.
Conversations with God has some thoughts on that too, you know.
Oh, I'm sure it does. Always a popular topic. What does it say?
Well, it says death isn't the end. It's just like a transition to another realm.
Okay, that's not too out there.
But here's where it gets interesting. We get to choose what we come back as.
We do.
Yeah. Human, animal, insect, even life on a different planet. The options are limitless.
So it's like a cosmic reincarnation lottery? Spin the wheel and see what you get?
Exactly. I can picture it now, you know?
Yeah.
Like a cosmic travel agent handing out brochures. Tired of being human? Try life as a tardigrade. They can survive in space.
Oh man, that'd be wild. Imagine coming back as a houseplant.
Right. Or getting reborn on another planet. Talk about culture shock.
Excuse me, but where can I find the nearest Starbucks?
All right, enough about intergalactic travel. Let's talk about something a little more down to earth, like prayer. Conversations with God has some pretty strong opinions about prayer.
Oh, I bet it does. What does it say? Is it all about, begging for favors from the big guy upstairs?
Not exactly. It actually says that that kind of prayer, the please God, let me win the lottery kind of prayer, is basically pointless. Pointless. Instead, we should focus on gratitude.
Gratitude. So no more asking for things. Just be thankful for what you've got, even if it's a pile of bills and a bad case of the Mondays.
Pretty much. Dear God, thank you for this lukewarm coffee and the fact that I didn't spill it all over myself this morning.
There might be something to that gratitude thing, but maybe it's less about pleasing God and more about, shifting our own perspective.
So if we're busy being grateful for our parking spot or whatever, we won't notice all the other not so great things in our lives.
Maybe, but let's not overthink it. We've got more divine revelations to unpack.
That's right. We're only halfway through this satirical journey through Conversations with God.
And there's a lot more where that came from.
So stay with us, folks. We're going to keep exploring the wisdom of this unconventional God.
And his very unique communication methods.
And hey, maybe we'll even learn something along the way. You never know. And we're back, folks, for the final part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground so far, everything from God being the universe to the whole reincarnation lottery thing.
Yeah, we've had some fun with this one, haven't we?
We have. But there's one big topic we haven't touched on yet.
Oh, and what's that?
Free will versus destiny. Yeah, the whole, are we in control of our lives or is everything predetermined debate?
The classic philosophical conundrum.
Conversations with God tries to tackle this one, of course, in its own unique way.
And how's that?
Well, it basically says that, yeah, we have free will, but it's also kind of influenced by all sorts of other things, like our past experiences, our beliefs, maybe even our genes.
So we're free to choose, but only within certain predefined parameters. That's an interesting take on free will.
Right. It's like being given a coloring book where someone's already colored in all the lines.
Here's your free will, kid, but don't get too creative.
But here's where things get even weirder. The book claims that God doesn't actually, interfere in our lives at all because it respects our free will.
Hold on a second. So God, the all-powerful creator of the universe, is just sitting back and watching us fumble around. No guidance, no intervention, nothing.
Apparently. Talk about a hands-off approach to parenting, right?
Right, like setting up a giant ant farm and then just observing from a distance.
Let's see what happens when I poke this one with a stick. But what about all the people who are suffering, People who are going through really tough times? Is that all just part of God's grand plan, too?
Well, the book says that suffering is just another form of experience, like a necessary contrast to joy and peace.
So God doesn't see suffering as a bad thing.
Not really. It sees it as just another part of the whole cosmic tapestry.
So while we're down here struggling with heartbreak and loss and, global pandemics, God is up there in the cosmic VIP lounge just watching the show.
Sipping on a cosmic margarita, probably.
Oh, look, there's Bob getting laid off. That's gotta hurt. Past the cosmic nachos. But seriously, if God doesn't intervene, if suffering is just part of the experience, what's the point of prayer?
Well, that's where Conversations with God takes another one of its unexpected turns. It says that traditional prayer, the whole please God help me pass this test kind of prayer, is pretty much useless.
Useless.
Useless. Instead, we should focus on gratitude.
Gratitude. Again. So no more asking for things, just be thankful for what we have, even if what we have is a leaky roof and a broken down car.
Exactly, because apparently expressing gratitude is the best way to communicate with God.
Right, like sending a thank you note to the universe. Dear universe, thanks for not letting that meteor hit Earth today. Much appreciated. But, maybe gratitude is less about pleasing God and more about tricking ourselves into feeling better about a situation.
The power of positive thinking.
Exactly. Well, there you have it, folks. Our satirical deep dive into Conversations with God. We've questioned the questionable, laughed at the absurd, and hopefully made you think a little bit along the way.
And remember, this was just one perspective, one way of looking at this book. There are many others. The important thing is to keep an open mind, question everything, and never stop searching for your own truth.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.